I stopped consuming corn when I understood that I was part of the reason, or that I was the fuel to the fire that is the reason as to why there's rape and as to why there's all these things like human trafficking and everything in between, right? Mainly because what came to my realization from a video by Rand Gavreli, if I'm not mistaken, right, was that when you consume these sort of things, you create demand, right? You create demand for whatever it is that you're watching. So if you're watching whatever category you're watching, whether it's big booty Latinas or whatever it is that you're indulging in, you're creating demand. And there's sickos on this planet that want to supply that demand. So what do? They go human traffic those Latinas, those Asian girls, those black women, whatever it is that is your preference when you are consuming this sort of thing. And now you're fueling the fire, right? There's so many things that happen because of these things, right? And we're not educated on it enough. That's why I took it upon me to just talk on this thing, not for likes or whatever, not for views, just so that if ever it is I get to an age where I am able to have kids and my daughter and my son are struggling with whatever it is that life presents at their feet at that time, they're able to look back on these things and find help, right? Even my niece, something that she could learn from, whatever the situation is. So to just discuss this, because corn is such a contributing factor to things like failed relationships, rape, all these things, aggression towards men or women, because there's so many diverse categories now of so many things that will program your mind into believing that this is the only way to act when it comes to intimacy or when it comes to times of intimacy. Now, mind you, my main thing is just against the whole porn. My main thing, right, is just against the whole porn and OnlyFans industry, right? Because not a lot of people understand the whole thing behind those industries. Many people our age, young, right? Because they want money. Cool, we understand that everyone wants money, but they go into these industries not understanding that they're signing themselves up for prostitution, and for them it doesn't seem like it, because we've always thought of prostitution as someone who's at a brothel, or someone who you find at the corner store or the street, whatever it is, and you hoot at them and then they do whatever they do for $40, whatever the amount is, right? That's what we've always thought prostitutes were. But if you really put into perspective, corn, OnlyFans are a form of prostitution. It's just that they've made it seem a bit fancier, made it seem cooler, And so many people our age go into these things not knowing the consequences of said actions, because not only are they hurting themselves, but they're hurting a greater generation, a future generation that's gonna end up being programmed to think that the things they see on corner are the only ways to show intimacy when it comes to those private moments with loved ones or whatever it is, right? And I had a lot of notes. That I will not shy away from. I had a lot of notes, and these things I'd love to speak on. Because, as I said, this video was inspired by a video by Rand Gavreli, who spoke on all these things, where he said something, right? He said something very profound to me. He said, the more we consume these things, the more we are programmed, right? And a lot of people don't understand what that actually means when we say we're programmed. So he gave an example, and in that example, I can't really recall what he said, but I'll give an example of mine. It was similar to this idea, right? He says, for me, right, I watched a movie called F1, right? I watched it. It's around 2 hours long. If not less. I can't remember the exact numbers, but we're going to say 2 hours in the long haul. It was a great movie. I've never ever been interested in F1 or the sport, but I watched it. It was cool, right? Cool scenes and everything in between. 2 hours. And right after the movie, I was extremely invested in F1 for some reason. I was looking to get into the sports. I was like, oh shoot, who should I be looking at? I started watching races. Just 2 hours of my life. I had never had any interest in F1 prior, but I started being interested in it. And next thing you know, I'm looking up F1 drivers and all these things, right? Cool. Now imagine 20 minutes of corn consecutively. Maybe you watch it once or twice a week, right? It programs you in a way in a way, right, for men and women, whether it's 25 minutes a day or it's just whatever video you're trying to watch to release, whatever it is that you're trying to do, it programs you, right? Now this produces different outcomes for men and women, you know, because for women, right? Now, mind you, in our generation, porn is just not accessible from you typing it in on a certain website or whatever. No, you find it on social media now where it's softcore, right? Where women will be promoted, where they're wearing skimpy clothes, talking in quite not so good language, you know, not per se that they're cussing, but they're talking in seductive manners that will paint pictures in your mind that would lead you towards going to find some sort of release on the internet. And this, you know, Ron Oran, he said something. He said that this has caused paralysis within like people, right? Not just the youth. Just to give you an idea of what I mean by porn having caused paralysis to the people, right? For men and young boys, porn has created this belief that once you are indulging in intimacy, right, with your partner, it's always a must that you should forget things like gentleness, the ability to listen, to be compassionate, to be patient, to take things slow, to laugh, all these things that are fundamental in connecting with a human, right? It takes away all these beautiful things. And we don't understand that because we see it mainly as, hey, it's just a once-off pleasure, it's harmless. But in theory, it's really programming us to forget these things and to focus mainly on what they have made us, or to focus mainly on what they believe makes good intimacy, right? Because in court, as you know, the main thing that they'll promote is you have to have a big tool or you have to have an erection that will last for years and all these things, right? And in reality, it doesn't always happen like that, which creates insecurity among young men, causing them to be paralyzed, to not ever want to indulge in intimacy. And if they ever do indulge in intimacy, they take on the persona of the people that they see who are overly aggressive, who show no emotion, who never ever take time to connect with the person that they are being intimate with, right? And that takes away from everything, from the now where they develop and understand intimacy, and to the future where they are with their partner and they want to be intimate, but there is no form of connection, which later leads to divorce. Maybe they have kids and then it's broken families and it all becomes a cycle and all these things, right? And we don't really speak on this. We don't speak on this as much as we should, because it's not only messed up the guys, but the women as well, because nowadays, and it's more evident than ever, that women are being fed the subconscious thing that if they want to be worthy of love, right, they have to be worthy of sexual desire. And sexual desire does not just mean being attractive, but in an elegant way, it means dressing skimpy, you know, showing that you are, you know, luddy, you know, I'm not going to say the word, but you are luddy, and all these other things that you are into being open and free, but in a loose manner where you indulge in things that you yourself do not hold value of. And if I don't even include that, which all basically means, right, sexual desire nowadays basically means being like a porn star. That's what it basically means, because they want you to dress skimpy, talk a certain way, a seductive way that you yourself would never have recognized way back then. And you know, the consequence of all these things, the consequence that we don't speak on these things, is that you find that young high school girls, right, will start recording themselves in their most intimate spaces just to please guys who will misattribute their trust and will leak them, post them on the internet, and they'll feel like the man, because at the end of the day, they will not be questioned on their morals. They will not be punished. They won't even be questioned on what they're doing, because it's been seen as a cool thing to just not protect people's intimacy or keep it private, because everyone wants to put it out there. It's the cool thing. It's the hip thing. But at the end of the day, this then causes things like depression, especially for the girl who has revealed herself in a very intimate and private manner towards a guy who didn't even consider her trust and just put it all in the internet. Now she's depressed, you know? She's depressed. She doesn't even see a life worth living, because She herself doesn't even feel like she's worth love or respect after having everything about her exposed to the internet. And all this comes about because the youth, right, even grown men and women, right, are not, how can I say this, are being fed the lies that being skimpy and putting it on the internet is cool, are being fed the subconscious programming that intimacy is not really something that's worth having, that it's something that should just be done and it should be aggressive. There is no time to be serious. You should be coordinated. If you make a mistake, you're dead. And this all kills the whole point of human connection. It's literally a capital case. That's a question of life and death. The porn industry is just exploitation, you know? Exploitation of young minds. Young minds that are being pruned to be the next big stars, whatever it is. Minds that are going to be standing up against bigger problems, but they exploit their curiosity. Because something that I will say is that no one before porn ever had a fantasy of them being intimate with someone and there not being passion, there not being connection. No one. But after it, there's always this theme where it's just do it and leave. Where it's aggression, zero connection, and just straight up, I don't know what word to use there, but just them moving separate ways. Because it's become too normalized. For the wrong reason. And it's going to keep getting worse until we continue to have conversations about it. Now, mind you, I am far from well versed in these spaces. I'm just speaking something that inspired me in my mind. And of course, I'm going to have mistakes. And of course, it's not going to be perfect, but it's something that is indeed concerning because at the end of the day, I do not want my niece to ever feel like she has to fit a certain category, which will be to be sexually desired, which will be dressing like a porn star or acting like one just so she can feel love. I don't want her to ever think like that. And I don't think you want the same for your daughter. So why are we still promoting porn? Why are we creating a demand for it? Why are we watching it? Why are we consuming it? Because the sad truth is it's going to continue to grow. It's an industry that's going to continue to grow so long as that it has eyes on it. The more we watch it, the more we consume, the more we feed the flame. And you can't act like you're blind to it. You see the flame is burning souls. People are dying, killing themselves because of shame. From moments where they capture themselves sharing it to a person that they thought they could trust who broke their trust. Not that. Maybe it's even the people who have been in the industry themselves. Whether it's OnlyFans or actual porn, who did the part, who played it, and they lost their souls along the journey because they were treated like trash. Now they slave their lives away in brothels in whatever situation they can just to make means. Because guess what? Most of them, something that I heard, was that most of them don't even make it past 50. Now, why is that? STDs, boyfriends that will murder them, or pimps, or whoever it is, the people that they're being escorted to, all these little fundamentals, drugs, and suicide because they lose themselves throughout the whole process. Because guess what? Rand Gavreli said something very beautiful. He says the industry, that it chews them up and spits them out like they were never ever existing. And it does the same with the minds of today. Like, bro, it has you thinking the most far-fetched things in the middle of the day, where you're not even living, you are just a slave to these thoughts that you had never ever wanted, that compromised you from your curiosity. You know? They take away your freedom. Now you don't know how to act, you don't know how to communicate because you are filled with such lustful thoughts that you yourself are fighting every single day, where you've been programmed so much so that you just have impulses where in any other situation, and in every single situation could be categorized as rape, aggression, because they've programmed your mind to just feel the need to just use said person, regardless of gender. So if we continue to turn a blind eye to porn, do you think rape stats are going to decrease? Do you think all these bad and horrific things like human trafficking, all these things, the youth being overly sexualized, you know, do you think these things will stop? Fudge no. The sad reality is that because, as I said, you create demand by consuming these things. The more you promote them, the more you say that, no, they're good. No, they're good. It's okay to consume it. The more you are feeding the system and more minds that are going to die along the way. And mind you, I'm not just saying this just for us. I'm thinking ahead of us. Think about the people ahead of us. We're already effed up. We're already messed up in ways that you can never really understand. And we're trying to reverse that. Imagine 10 years from now when it is extraordinarily better now than now, where it's VR and it's actually happening in all these things. It's genuinely a cause for concern. It's a cause for concern, not just for the youth, but for every single person that wants to live on this earth. It is not something we should be normalizing at all. Far from it. But yet many people don't want to speak on it. Maybe because they feel unqualified, but at the end of the day, regardless of how old you are always qualified to share your opinion. I truly believe this is something that we should be having conversations about and looking towards shutting down, because in South Africa at the moment, we're fighting GBV. You know, part of that GBV is contributed to by corn, because men never really got into their gentle side where they understood that when it comes to things like intimacy or intercourse, that there's degrees to it, and it's not just pure violence, where if she says she does not like this, you do not beat her, you do not do anything. It's a matter of understanding and being gentle. It's a much deeper problem than we would ever think. So I'd love to say that maybe in the next couple of years, this is not something that is turned out upon and is created or acted as if it's nothing. You know, maybe, hopefully, there's a change in the coming years. Not for me or my niece or any of my daughters, but for society. But with the way things are going, I'm not too hopeful. Not that I've lost hope. I won't lose it, but not too hopeful.